Hey guys, what's up? I'm Zach. Welcome to Zach's Soapbox. This is a video for the week of Friday, October 3rd, 2025. Hello everybody, I'm Zach. I'm your host of this little shindig we call Zach's Soapbox, where once a week I get on here, speak my mind, talk about whatever I want to talk about, upload it to YouTube, and you guys give me like, comment, share, feedback, and all that bull crap if you want. We've been averaging about 200 to 250 views a week at the time I'm recording this, which isn't bad, but I wish more of you hit the like button and commented and engaged with it, because that's what YouTube actually wants. But a lot of you kind of silent watchers watch and don't say anything. And while I'm at it, let me give a quick shout out to my homies over at Mike Has a Drink. And show them boys some love. They got a Facebook page. And they get on Facebook once a week or every other week now and pick a topic every week and talk about stuff, and they have too much to drink. But so give a shout out to my boys at Mike Has a Drink. And anyways, guys, the video for this week is I'm calling it the social aspect of disability. I find that with disability, oftentimes when we think of disability, we think of the wheelchair, the walker, the cane, the medications, the doctor's appointments, the doctor's visits, the hospital stays, yada, yada, yada. Do you have good health care? Do you have good insurance? We do a good job as a society kind of taking care of people in a medical sense. But what about in a social sense? For example, like I've been out in public before. I don't have a PCA or a caregiver, but I know a lot of people in my situation and similar situations do. And one of the things people always assume, like, say you're out with a friend or something, they always assume that person's either a caregiver or a nurse and or a relative, as if you can never have like a friend or a social life or a girlfriend or a wife, etc., etc. That sort of thing. So the social aspects of disability. One thing that's often overlooked, like I said, we take care of disabled people in terms of the medical, the healthcare, the medicine, yada, yada, because that's what people think of. But what about having a girlfriend, getting married, having children? Not that it's not impossible, but it's much harder. And I think that there are some barriers to the social inclusion and like I said, one of them is the kind of societal attitudes that we don't even know we really have, where we always assume anytime we see a able-bodied person with a disabled person, that's a caregiver or a relative, like I just mentioned. There's also a tendency to want to separate and infantilize the disabled. Like when it comes to disability and sex, sex and intimacy and human intimacy is one thing that we don't really think of when we think of the disabled. We don't think of the disabled fucking, because we tend to want to kind of infantilize the disabled and kind of act as though they're not capable of that, or they wouldn't think of that. Bullshit. I was jerking off at 11 or 12 just like every other boy, if not before that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's one thing I wanted to talk about, is the social aspects of disability and disabled life. Particularly, I could have did one on intimacy and sexuality alone, but particularly when it comes to that area, that aspect of disabled life is often forgotten. I live in a building with like other disabled people. Some of them have cerebral palsy, some of them have various brain injuries and other ailments and things, strokes, things like that. And oftentimes, I think it's really sad that the only time you see somebody come see people is when they're going in an ambulance, or it's their PCA, their caregiver, and things like that. You don't ever see like a family come see them for Christmas, Thanksgiving, other holidays, and things like this. I think that that's really sad, and I think that as disabled people, I know that I feel like I deserve love, I deserve intimacy, I deserve human companionship. I feel that I deserve these things, you know what I mean? And I've been on various dating sites, and like when I was on Tinder for a while, I even purposely would put pictures of me sitting in my wheelchair. This way nobody could say, well, I didn't know you were in a wheelchair, you didn't tell me that. Well, no, I purposely would put my wheelchair and pictures of me in my chair on my Tinder profile even. You know what I mean? I had one of them for a while. But oftentimes, you'd be surprised how often, oh man, you're such a great guy, you're such a good dude. and then you tell them when you're in a wheelchair, and I've had people literally hang up on me, like say you're on a chat line or somewhere, and as soon as you say wheelchair, I can't do that, sorry, or they just flat out hang up on you, and it's rude as fuck. Um, another barrier to like social interaction is lack of transportation. Like say in a rural area where I grew up, when I went to Mercer High School, Mercer's only a town of about 1,800 people, and I only had about 125 or 130 kids in my graduating class. And so, like in a rural area, they're not going to have the same infrastructure that a big city like Las Vegas would. Now, even here in Vegas, yes, they have the RTC bus system, but like say the closest bus stop to my house is a half a mile, and it's a half mile there and a half mile back, and then when the bus drops you off, it'll drop you off on one side of the street, it'll pick you up on the other side of the street, but the street's not a street, it's a 4-lane, 6-lane, or 8-lane road. You know what I mean? Like Sahara, that's a 6-lane road, 3 lanes in each direction. Now this is what, I think 3 lanes in each direction. Even when I go to the movies, I got to cross East Flamingo, and that's a 4-lane road. You know what I mean? I mean, yes, there's a crosswalk, but there's always a danger. Not to mention that we have, like, alcohol on every corner, and legal marijuana is legalized out here in Vegas, etc., etc. So here I am, going to walk around the damn city, and people always say, "Well, nobody ever sees a motorcycle." Shit, you think people see wheelchairs? You know what I'm saying? But and overall accessibility itself, like so you can have a buddy, but the buddy might be having a 4th of July picnic or something like that, or some other, like a Super Bowl party or some other sort of social event, but you can't invite your disabled friend because your house isn't wheelchair accessible. That sort of thing. You know what I mean? Or like say hanging out with my buddy Tom when I lived back east. One time he come got me for like a cookout. I think it was like 4th of July weekend or a summer weekend, whatever, and they had a cookout. He come and got me in Reynolds and took me to where he was living, and then took me back. But he even told me that like he had to kind of warn people that his buddy in a wheelchair was going to come and going to be there. You know what I mean? Which I think that's also kind of weird that you have to warn people. Look out, we're going to have a guy in a wheelchair here. I just wanted to warn everybody. But no, but a lot of it's attitudinal too. Like the bigotry of low expectations is because it's not that everybody hates disabled people, but it's that we tend to kind of look at disabled people and like if I'm just supposed to get an E for effort, I'm not supposed to win. I wasn't supposed to be on the honor roll or a member of the National Honor Society. I was just supposed to get an E for effort and try, and everybody clap. You know what I mean? Kind of like the Special Olympics where everybody gets a gold medal because they're overcoming their disability. Well, but I can do more than just overcome my disability. I can overcome you. You know what I'm saying? I can beat you. And what I notice too is as soon as I start kind of beating people, like at school or getting a straight A, people start kind of feeling intimidated or start mocking you more because you're beating them at something. And instead of being they become kind of angry, and you become mocked behind your back. Like people, I intimidate people. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. But I didn't take notes, and it's going to show. But no, what I wanted to say was like, there's more to life than just going to doctors and taking medications and having caregivers and yada, yada, yada. What about the socialization and social aspect? Thankfully, like the internet's here though. So a lot of the friends you make and a lot of the friends you meet are people online, people on the telephone. You know what I mean? Like you might have a friend, like when I lived in Pennsylvania, I had a friend, we don't talk anymore because it's been years, but I had a friend from like Yuma, Arizona, almost down by the Mexican border, and we used to talk at least 3 times a week. We met somewhere on Facebook, and we were friends for a couple of years, and I think she moved to Phoenix now, and I live in Vegas, but thankfully the internet's here, and it's kind of made it to where a lot of your friends are online rather than in real life. You know what I mean? It isn't always shitty, but that's true for a lot of people, disabled or not, that oftentimes now with the internet here, some of your closest buddies are in like another country or another state, disabled or not. And one thing I noticed, like with disability, is you almost have to enjoy your own company. And I think that's why I'm able to do a video every week, and I'm so introspective, I guess, more, because it's not that I don't have a life between all the weightlifting and fucking cardio and, you know, concerts and movies and everything. It's not that, or you have so much time on your hands. It's not even that. It's that I'm able to kind of sit and think about things in a way that a lot of people wouldn't. But I just get so tired of being nothing more than my disability. Oh, you know, oh, you're disabled. Do you need to go to the doctors? Do you need... No, I don't need to go to the doctors. I need a friend with a sympathetic ear. No, I don't need to go to I don't need a medicine. I need a piece of ass. I don't need, you know, and that's not to say sex is everything, but that's the thing too, is that there's so much more to the sexual act than just the orgasm and, oh, I busted a nut. Well, no, it's the kissing, the caressing, the touching, the kiss, you know, the petting, the laughing, the pillow talk after sex, the bonding and intimacy. That aspect is seriously lacking when it comes to disability. I kind of wish we would do something like the Netherlands do, where the Dutch government pays for, like, disabled people to once a month go to the brothel, you know, and go to the red light district in the Netherlands. I kind of wish we would do that here. I wish we would do a lot of things, but I think a lot of times part of it with disability too is we don't see disabled people killing it as much in society as we should. Yes, there are people that, you know, are killing it and winning in life, but we don't show it enough. We don't see it enough. You know what I mean? We always look at disability as it's something to overcome, or a personal tragedy. Oh, I'm so sorry. When in fact, it's not a personal tragedy. It's not a failure. It's just a different part of the human experience, as I've said before. And so a lot of this stuff is kind of the societal attitudes and stigmas. And like I said, the bigotry of low expectations. Again, it's not that everybody's hating disabled people. It's that it's a soft form of bigotry that I can't this and I can't that. You know what I mean? When in fact, I'm smarter than all of you. You know what I mean? Well, you know, Mr. Varel, you know, or Zach, you should be getting better grades than, you know, you do. Well, 10 minutes ago, you thought I was fucking retarded. You know what I mean? Or what about like when you're out in public and somebody will get up right up in your face and talk real slow, like, do you need help going to the gate? And it's like, no, it doesn't happen so much anymore because times are changing, and I live in a big city now to where Vegas is a service town, so they service and see everybody. So I noticed Vegas is, like, its ableism is a lot less pronounced. You know what I mean? When you're in a bigger box, I don't have to explain to everyone why I'm different all the time. I had a friend, or a lady I met that lives behind me here, like 2 rows over. She come over today and she goes, do you mind if I ask why you're in a wheelchair? I'm like, no. You know, I have cerebral palsy. I'm like, no, you know, no big deal. You know, I'd rather have you ask than sit and wonder, you know. She's like, are you offended? I'm like, no, you know. The best way to combat ignorance is education. And I think one thing we could do is if we showed more disabled people on television, in commercials, in participating in social aspects of life, you know, that sort of thing. Like I said, living here, beyond these people's caregivers, you don't see really anybody coming to visit anybody. And I think that that's kind of sad. So, you know, if you know somebody in a wheelchair or somebody with a disability, and you want to invite them to the party or invite them to the cookout, invite them. And maybe if they need accommodations or something, ask them how to accommodate them. If they need help, ask them, you know, do you need help? May I help you? How do I help you? And things like that. Usually we don't, because a lot of us are pretty independent, and a lot of us didn't end up in wheelchairs yesterday, so we have our own systems and own ways of doing things, you know? So, you know what I mean? But no, I just kind of wanted to touch on that. And before somebody asked, you know, I was even talking to another friend with cerebral palsy about this online. He lives in Indiana. Shout out to Gary. If you see this, he watches these. But anyways, I asked him, I says, do you get, even though he's got a type of CP where you walk, I says, do you get the dick question too? And he says, yes. So before you ask, does my dick work? Yes, it does. Penis is erectile tissue, and that's filled with blood. okay? So unless I have some sort of blood flow problem and take, like, say, a heart medication or a blood pressure medication or something, uh, having cerebral palsy or spina bifida is not going to have an effect on being able to get a boner and get laid, okay? So before we even go there, your penis is not a fucking muscle, okay? So asking, can you do your thing with a woman? Of course I can. Why wouldn't I be able to? If I smacked you in the leg with a baseball bat and you ended up in a wheelchair for 2 months, what's that got to do with your dick and balls, right? But all right, guys, this video's been going on long enough. We're over 15 minutes in, and I just kind of wanted to touch on some things. Maybe this will be a conversation starter. Feel free to like, comment, and share, and tune in next week.